to Bellerin! Bellerin! Hey to Bellerin!
Owned by Mustafi. Bellerin! Brilliant! 2-2!
Hector Bellerin, Bellerin, Hector Bellerin. Na, 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 na. That's a song. Yeah.
All right. It was a day of the bitter, followed perhaps by a day of the sweet. Welcome to the latest edition of Saved by the Bellerin, the Arsenal football podcast here on the Sports Talkline Network. I am your moderator, Raphael, joining you from the United States, joined this week by a couple of my UK cohorts. To my left is Ryan. Welcome, Ryan.
Hello, sir. Hope you're doing well.
I am doing well, thank you. And below Ryan is Sam. Welcome back, Sam.
Hello, mate. Hope so. It's good.
Okay, well, we have, again, some bitter and some sweet to discuss in the Arsenal football world. Lots of topics this week. Obviously, a lot of questions about transfers, what's happening with Houssem Aouar, what's happening with outgoings, who's going out, who's coming in, is Lucas Toreirra finally leaving? More on that in a little bit, but let's go. They played a match. Arsenal went up to Anfield yesterday, played a match, began well, as their most recent matches with Liverpool have, and it did not end well. 3-1 to the hosts. Some good and some not so good to discuss. Gentlemen, let's begin. Ryan, I'm going to bring you in first. As what happens often with results that are not to everybody's, that disappoint everybody, we can start by looking at the squad sheet. And again, the squad sheet had a lot of people scratching their heads. Arteta has been using a midfield of Ceballos and Xhaka, where that's been his best combination, certainly in the post-COVID world. Yesterday, he seemed to be overly defensive, we might say. We're very conservative. He played El Neni and Xhaka in the midfield, trying to prevent, I guess, an early Liverpool lead, but he kind of hamstrung himself, did he not?
He did indeed, and it goes to show what a press-resistant midfielder could do for our team. Because when you play Xhaka and El Nene, neither of them have that ability to play under pressure, quick turning around from defence to attack instantly. And it showed last night when Ceballos came on. First thing he did was receive the ball on the edge of his box, turn 3 players, and we're on the attack. With El Nene and Xhaka playing, the gap between our midfield and our front 3 was humongous. It was specific, like ocean massive. And it just isolates our front 3, and then we just don't create enough chances. As soon as Ceballos came on, he had Lacazette through on a 1v1. We had more of the ball. I felt we was much more comfortable. And yeah, playing the 2 in midfield, the 2 that he played as well, I thought was a bit suicidal, to be honest. We brought all of the pressure onto us because neither of them can play with their backs to the goal. They can't receive the ball with their back to the opposition, sorry. So we was only going one way, and that was backwards. And then it was putting pressure on Rob Holding, which showed his weaknesses of playing out properly. David Luiz was making mistakes. Tierney didn't look as comfortable. And yeah, Bellerin and Ainsley Maitland-Niles didn't exactly cover themselves in glory either by helping the 2 wide centre-backs. But that all comes down to the middle of the pitch, because Xhaka and El Neni, as I've mentioned already, they can't turn quick and play the right passes. And the only time Xhaka did play the right pass forward, we instantly had an attack which we scored from. So it just goes to show we have Ceballos in there and Aouar, press resistant, turn the opposition inside out, and we're on their counter attack instantly.
All right. Sam, let's stay with that because we were, as we were watching, grousing I'm sure fans everywhere across the world watching this, Arsenal fans were kind of grousing. The lack of forward passes from the midfield, as Ryan's touched on. It seemed that they weren't really even looking to get the ball upfield. Certainly I saw nothing from Elneny, who had done that in his first start. Not so much from Xhaka, but again, the one time in that first half where they did look for that really long, incisive pass, as he said, a goal came from it. Xhaka found Lacazette in the middle of the park. He had just a one-touch pass to the flank to Niles. They were off and running. A couple of passes later, the ball's back on his foot, and Arsenal has short-lived, but they had a lead.
Yeah, that's what we are capable of on the counter-attack with this formation. I've made no bones about it in previous pods that personally I don't feel this is the formation for us moving forward. Ultimately, it did hamstring us, as Ryan's touched upon as well in the build-up, and unfortunately, Liverpool exposed the weakness of this formation because if we can't build through Xhaka, we're resorting to long balls from David Luiz, and that was very prominent throughout the first half. To be honest, it was a very sloppy first half from Arsenal, barring the goal. Again, you can say there's a touch of luck to that, but it was good play from Lacazette to lay that ball off, and just the way that he's kind of stumbled, but then got up and made a beeline for the box. Maybe last year you wouldn't have seen that from him, but he made the box. It was a bit of luck off Andy Robertson, but he is in the right place at the right time. I said in the chat that I'm in, is that Lacazette's the king of tap-ins and scuff shots, and it was a scuff shot that ended up beating Alisson. But for me, that first half, as for an Arsenal first half, that's the worst I've seen us play. And that it isn't necessarily down to Arteta, because as Jamie Carragher pointed out last night, that Arteta can only get so much out of the squad, which I think that he's getting the maximum out of them at the moment. But it was a case of, if you looked at Liverpool's press, it was just ridiculous yesterday. You have essentially across wherever they press, you've always had one at the front, one about 2, 3, 4 yards behind them, two more coming in at you as well, and you're getting a split second where the front three, front four are so quick to be on you. And as Ryan touched upon, the turning circles of Xhaka and of Elneny killed us. So the only option was, and we saw it again in the second half, was of a goal kick, went into Leno to David Luiz into Xhaka, Xhaka back to Luiz. We had to pass it further back from where David Luiz was on the 6-yard line to the actual byline for Kieran Tierney in the corner. And to me, that's a big worry. I personally don't like us doing it, but again, the formation it just doesn't help. It don't help, because we're instantly on the back foot, and with the midfield that we've got, somebody that can't evade quick presses, we get killed in them transitions. And to be honest, we was very lucky not to concede quite a few times from it, especially where there's one where the ball's passed literally right across the front of the goal, and Mane was so close to it. It was a joke, really.
Ryan, a lot of people are commenting that, this is the limitations of the roster as it stands. And we've talked about this. I've written about it. We've talked about it here on the show. That Arteta still, by and large, has a lot of Emery's squad. The turnover is ongoing, but it's still not complete, far from complete. One of the complaints that came out yesterday, let's touch upon this. We were talking about Lacazette, and I know you were talking about him earlier in the first game of the season. You're also talking about him yesterday, that he is playing more like a traditional 9, but yet there is a real love-hate with him. Even though he's got 3 goals in 3 matches, he is playing a more aggressive, a more forward game. But that, we come out of this match and there's still people saying, had Aubameyang been the recipient of those 2 through passes from Ceballos in that second half, obviously one of them was offside, but we don't know if Abba is going to be offside on that one. But they figured the second one that Alisson stopped may have gone in if you've got your better striker in his natural striker position. Is this an argument we're going to keep hearing if Arsenal are still kind of on this level where they're not at the talent level where they can just go out and overpower people?
I think so, yeah. And I think it all comes down to the balance of the team. And because Arteta knows we haven't got the technical players in the middle of the pitch yet, we've only got one technically gifted player, and that's Ceballos. Obviously, we've got Ozil and Guendouzi, but obviously they're not part of the squad as Arteta wants them to be. So he's having to play Lacazette in there because he's trying to play Lacazette like Liverpool play Firmino. The way he drops in, holds the ball up, and then the 2 wide men come at a diagonal. So Aubameyang's basically playing as a left inverted forward. But if we have a better balanced lineup, if we have a proper left winger like Saka, Martinelli, Willian even on that side, Aubameyang could play through the middle, and we've got a more clinical striker. We could have, if Aubameyang's playing through the middle last night with a proper winger on the left, I feel we score at least twice in the game, because Van Dijk knows Aubameyang's going to run in behind. With Lacazette, he knows the ball's going to come high and he's going to try and hold it up, so he just outmuscles him. So I think it all depends on the balance of the team. And then if we get the balance right, I don't think Lacazette starts.
Okay. Sam, this raises another question. People have been talking about Arteta kind of being very stubborn of playing Aubameyang on the left, playing Aubameyang on the left. He went out, he got Willian. And now I think everybody assumed, okay, we're going to see Willian and Aubameyang and Nico Pepe on the right. We haven't seen Nico Pepe make a start yet. Is this going to be one of those head scratching questions about lineups going forward, or is this just a temporary thing? Is this a matter of conditioning? Will we see a Willian, Aubameyang, Pepe front 3 in the near future, in your opinion?
I would say I would hope so, but again, that depends a lot on our transfer dealings in the last week. But ultimately, I think when we switch to a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, we'll see Aubameyang move into the middle. I personally don't think that this formation suits Pepe at the moment, because where a lot of our reliance is on Aubameyang down the left-hand side, Pepe's having to get involved in the build-up, and he isn't really that type of player. He's the player that you want to be turning and driving in the final third, not coming deep into the middle of the pitch or near the halfway line to just play them balls and then try and play around the midfield. Because ultimately, we do that, and you just know that the pattern of play it'll be played around on the right hand side for a little bit. It'll go into Xhaka. Xhaka will switch it out to the left hand side, and then we'll try and create something with Orba, maybe going into Lacazette, and then back to Orba, or the overlaps from Maitland-Niles and Kieran Tierney, and hope that Orba sticks ones away. But ultimately, with Nico Pepe, he needs a 4-3-3 because the space that he needs to operate in isn't being afforded to him at the moment. But I firmly believe with the transfer targets that we're going to speak about in a little while coming in, I firmly believe that a switch of formation will be very quick. And at the moment, I think the formation that we're playing is hiding quite a few squad members' weaknesses.
All right, one more question, Ryan, before we put Liverpool in the rearview mirror, as we probably should. But again, let's talk about the paper Arsenal squad versus the reality. We talked about the front three that we anticipate that we haven't seen. Backline, Arsenal unwrapped, if you manner of speaking, William Saliba. He's available to them now. He's, the loan with Saint-Etienne is over, but he's being brought along very slowly. Gabriel was the big summer get on the back line. Neither one of them played yesterday. As with Pepe on the front, let's look at the back. How long are we going to wait, or how long are we going to have to endure seeing David Luiz and Rob Holding as kind of the core of the back while we're waiting for these youngsters to cycle in?
I'm not sure, but I definitely think it was the right idea not starting Saliba or Gabriel last night. Controversially, obviously, but you don't want to kill Gabriel's confidence instantaneously playing against the best team in Europe. Do you know what I mean? Like, we saw it happen with Ceballos last season. He had a man-of-match performance against Burnley at home, went away to Liverpool, and he got lost. And we don't want that to happen to Gabriel. And Gabriel is going to be our mainstay in the centre defensive position. And we need him to be as confident as possible going forward from this point. Throwing him against Salah, Firmino, and Mane is just not a great idea. And the same with Saliba. He's not started a competitive Arsenal game yet, which might change on Thursday. We might see him play against Liverpool again. But yeah, especially if Gabriel is playing as a left-sided centre-back. Sam mentioned it there. The left-sided centre-back always overlaps going forward. And I just don't think Gabriel is capable of doing that going forward. I think he's more of a central defender rather than a... Kieran Tierney plays that position so well because he's so used to going forward. Whereas Gabriel won't be able to do what he can. And for that game, I feel like Mikel Arteta picked the right choice of going with Maitland-Niles and Tierney in that position just to cover Salah. It was just the other side was just a little bit weaker.
All right. Well, let's get to it. I mean, we talked about the match. Now we're talking about let's get the anticipatory juices flowing. And Sam, I'm going to begin by asking you a philosophical question. How close can you get to completing the transfer without actually completing a transfer? And I'm talking about the Houssem Aouar deal. It seems like, okay, the player is agreed with the club. The player wants to come. He's all but like begging to move to the club. Hints from Lyon that they brought the price down. They're not asking for the moon and the stars. They're under some financial stress. We hear Arsenal's pushing. Arsenal's made one move. It's been pushed back. They made another move that's been pushed back. We hear they're talking today. It seems that they were this far apart, and now they're this far apart, and now they're this far apart, and now they're this far apart, but there's still no deal yet. So what do we do? What do we do with ourselves?
Just wait till it happens, because we all know what Arsenal's like. They're notorious for eking a deal out. But ultimately, I believe when the embargo lifts around about 10:30 UK tonight, that we'll be hearing probably that a fee's been agreed. Of my own opinion, I think we'll probably hear about a fee being agreed tonight. If it's not tonight, it'll be midday tomorrow. And then hopefully Aouar will be shifted across to England quite quickly. The medical and that being arranged. But once that fee's been agreed, I think this transfer will steam ahead and it'll be resolved very quickly. Now, with that being said, it being done very quickly, we all know what Arsenal media is like, and we like a good old video. So it'll probably be a couple of days until it actually gets fully announced. But
properly presented, right?
yeah. But ultimately, this one's far too close for it to fail. Obviously, Alous has set a deadline of Friday for it to be completed. Now, we know what he's like. He's all bluster, but
Sure.
yeah, I just think that it's going to be done. It's too far down the line for it not to. Obviously, we've had the standard BS reports of another team coming in. Again, this team's Juventus today, so
Shut down immediately by Italian press, right? So
yeah, everybody and their dog knows that Juventus have got about 40 million bloody centre midfielders, so they're not going to be interested. Obviously, Man City's main correspondent that gets all their reliable info has come out and said Man City are looking for a centre midfielder. Media tried to put Bayern into the picture by adding 2+2, but getting 5. So yeah, I just think it'll be today or tomorrow, in my opinion, that the fee will be agreed. I would probably say by next Wednesday, Thursday.
Will he be available for Sheffield? There's the next question. How quickly can they put him into the squad in some capacity, even if it's a late substitution?
Yeah, Sheffield would be ideal. Yeah, I think it probably will be for Sheffield, just so even if he is on the bench, just so he can get used to the pace of the game. But dependent on how quickly they get it done and how many training sessions that he gets, they might be able to introduce him and get him into the starting lineup. That would be the hope. But ultimately, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But it's definitely happening. There's no two ways about it.
All right. So Ryan, let's assume we're going to talk about other possible transfers. I don't think any of us here believe Arsenal's actions are going to begin and end by bringing in Houssem Aouar. Obviously, 3 possible outgoings we're going to get to in just a moment. But regardless of who comes in, there is the match. There is the Prem match against Sheffield, and then 2 weeks break. So you hope there's at least 2 incomings. We'll talk about the second one. Everybody knows who the second one is. And then Arteta has 2 weeks to kind of work them into the squad for that brutal run in October. Again, building on this, is that adequate time? Can we start to see, would you expect a quick return on these guys? Let's say if Aouar is able to come in this coming week as Sam predicted, and maybe they bring in Thomas Partey, but is that ample time to start making them available for some 3 critical matches?
Just before I go into the answer, I just want to say Sam forgot to mention that Lyon have signed Aouar's replacement, the geezer from AC Milan. I forget his name, Lucas Paqueta?
Is
that
yes.
him? Yeah. Just want to mention that. And yeah, I think if we get Aouar over the line this week and slowly introduce him into the Sheffield game, because I don't think we'll have Partey before
Deadline
Sheffield.
day. Yeah.
I think he'll be a deadline day signing. So he has 2 weeks to come here, settle down, settle into London, get to know his new teammates, the area, this training ground, the stadium. And then I think they're both settling instantaneously. I don't think there'll be a problem there. Both of them are outstanding. They both suit Arsenal to a T and what we're trying to achieve. So it's a bit different for the pressure on them two won't be as high as it was for Nico Pepe, for example, because Pepe came with a 70 million price tag, and everyone saw what he did in France last season. He was incredible. Like, he got Lille Champions League by himself. So the pressure on Aouar and Partey won't be as high as, say, Pepe or Lacazette, for example. So I think the 2 weeks they have off, they'll be good to bring them into the training, getting to know their new teammates, get to know everyone. And yeah, they're settling straight away.
Another thing we have to keep in mind, right? We can't look at these in isolation, right? We look at October and we say, okay, they need to incorporate these guys. Leicester's coming up, Man City's coming up, Man United's coming up. Leicester's off to a good start. The Manchester squads are not. I mean, they are struggling as well. So, and we know the manager is good at quick blending of players, shall we say. He's going to have a fighting chance if he gets his squad, would he not? Stands to reason, Ryan.
Yeah, if Arteta gets who he wants into his 11, we could probably see better performances and a much better consistency of results. Because we're seeing now Arsenal struggling to get over the line in games, like with not Fulham, West Ham. We struggled to create anything, and then we got lucky. And then against Leicester in a cup, got lucky again. So, yeah, if he gets his 11, I see a lot better results. And starting with that, I think it's City first, isn't it? That we play.
I think it's Leicester,
Etihad.
Leicester, then City, then United. I think it's in that order.
Yeah, so bring any of them. I'm confident Arteta has the ingredients to beat both of them if he gets his squad.
And that's what we've been waiting for forever. Sam, incomings depend on outgoings. 3 reignited rumors for outgoings. Looks like Sead Kolasinac could be, again, these are deals. How close can we get to deals? Rumors today, he's going to Bayer Leverkusen, 10 million euro fee is what's being kicked about. Mustafi is apparently that close to going to Lazio for slightly more, maybe 10 to 12 million euros. And then in the hour or two before we went on, we've come on, the Lucas Toreirra to Atletico Madrid rumor is reignited. His representatives are apparently in Madrid, have been in Madrid today. Have you seen anything in the last hour that leads us to believe that those are close to being consummated? Because obviously it looks like Aouar is, as you said, is a matter of time. But Thomas Partey is going to depend on the completion of those deals, because as we've been saying forever, they need roster space.
Yeah, and I've not personally seen anything within the last hour, but as you say, with the players that are going out, the roster space will be there. It's just a case of getting them over the line. I think Toreirra will be the first out the door, then followed very quickly by Mustafi. Kolasinac, there's been a bit of toing and froing with Leverkusen. They've been saying that they've been interested in him for quite a while. The 10 million euro fee has been kicking around again for the same amount of time. It seems that Kolasinac has given them the okay now, because I think we all know that his first destination was going back to Schalke, but ultimately going to Leverkusen, it's still a good move for him, and it's a good move for us. So we move him out the door. That's high wages off the books as well. I think he was in the top 5 of wages.
Top 10, definitely. I mean,
yeah.
high, close to 100 on the south side of 100 a week, 100,000 a week, but close, very close.
Yeah, so we get that off the books, then it's a big plus for us. But ultimately, it's again with these deals, certainly in terms of Mustafi and Toreirra, again, it's just a matter of time. And again, they'll probably be done in the next couple of days. But it's a shame. It's a shame about Lucas Toreirra. I think the way that his career has just collapsed at Arsenal, really. And again, a lot of that blame's got to be shifted onto Unai Emery's shoulders. But ultimately, if we're going to be upgrading him to Thomas Partey, then hell, I'll kick him out the door myself, you know. Like with that signing, that's such an important signing for a different reason to Aouar. It just brings us so much strength in the middle of the midfield. And if you think about the players that we are bringing in, tall, athletic, strong, somebody that can cover the ground, still play with the ball, ping the ball, and ultimately gives us that cover when we eventually switch the formations. It's just mouthwatering, and that for me is a dream signing.
All right, gentlemen, they just played Liverpool. Now they're going to turn around, play Liverpool again. Cup match, but we should expect a very, very different roster. Ryan, at the beginning of the show, we were talking about, where is Saliba? And you were saying it was wise of Arteta to leave Gabriel and Saliba on the bench for this match. High stakes, early season at Anfield. Is this a match where we see these youngsters in the lineup? And who else could we expect to see in the rematch? I mean, we saw last year when Arsenal under Emery played Liverpool in this competition that Klopp went very, very young. Almost just wanted to concede, and it's almost like Arsenal wouldn't take the win.
Yeah, I think it'll be the same this season. I don't think he'll play any of his big players, because obviously Thiago has today been confirmed as positive for COVID. So I don't think any of their top players are going to play. He's not going to want to risk them. I think it'll be a young team from them. And from us, I feel like it'll be a very strong squad. I feel like it'll be still three at the back with, but I think it'd be Saliba, Gabriel, and Kolasinac if he's still here at the back, and then you have Cedric and Saka on either wing. Probably have Willock and Xhaka in midfield, and then you have Nico, Pepe, and Nketiah, and probably Nelson up front.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see the new goalkeeper as well, because he didn't play any against Leicester. So hopefully we get to see him.
All right. So again, a lot of intrigue. Sam, it's a cup. It's another cup, another piece of silverware there to be won. Arteta doesn't take these things lightly. I'd have to assume, even with a younger squad, he's going to be pushing for this. Because if you knock Liverpool out at this stage somehow, this is an early cup. It comes like February. It comes very early in the calendar. So it's just another stepping stone, even though it's considered a minor cup, even far below the FA Cup. It's still, for this young club, for this developing club, would be another positive just trophy or to put on the shelf.
Yeah, and it also breeds that winning mentality. So ultimately, I think Arteta sees this as a cup that Arsenal can win. It's good experience for our youngsters as well. Ryan mentioned Kolasinac potentially being in the back three if he's still here, but I think that potentially Dan Ballard might be that third centre back from the under 23s. But ultimately, the Liverpool second string is one that's extremely beatable, and personally I think that we've got a stronger second string than what they have. But yeah, if we can get past Liverpool in this round, it gives the youngsters a good win at a famous ground, a hard ground to win at, and ultimately the teams left in it, depending on how strong they go in the future rounds, which I don't see many teams doing, it's an extremely winnable cup, and also that guarantees you into Europe.
It's a crapshoot, given we're going to be looking at youngsters against youngsters. But you want to make a prediction, however flighty it might be, unstable it might be?
I'm going to go 3-2 us.
Okay. As we remember, last year was 5. It was 5-4 Arsenal, and then as Arsenal kept giving the game back. Ryan, is it going to be that freewheeling this time?
Yeah, I'm going to go for 8-8, and Arsenal win on penalties.
Okay. All right. So we talked about Toreirra out, right? We're hinting at this. We're hinting. It looks like Aouar, as Sam was saying in the beginning of the match, based on all the news from Lyon, from Italy, from all the insiders, the IT case. Aouar is about that far away. Thomas Partey, let's put it back on. If Toreira's out the door, I'm going to start with you, Sam. We're finally, again, we're like, when is it going to happen? This has to be it, right? Even if it goes to deadline day, if Lucas Toreirra is going to Atletico Madrid, this has to mean the consummation of Thomas Partey to Arsenal.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. we've also got to remember that Thomas Partey didn't start in Simeone's first game against Granada. He was on the bench and come on around
70th minute.
70th minute.
With
So,
Suarez, yes.
For him, I think that would show him that he's not first choice in that midfield. And if we're looking at that, it shows that Simeone is trying something different in the eventual case of Thomas being released, because where this contract offer from Atletico Madrid, it's been on the table since last October.
Yeah.
And if he really wanted to stay at that club, he would have signed that contract a long, long time ago. And another thing that we spoke about in our group chat is that Atletico Madrid have been pleading poverty due to their furlough situation with the Spanish government. Yet they've gone and offered Luis Suarez astronomical wages to come in. And before that, they've been saying to Thomas, well, we can't afford to give you that type of wage. But when Luis Suarez comes in, it's got to make you think a little bit, going, well, you've just given that to him. You could have given that to me for quite a while. So, yeah, I think it's inevitable. As you say, I think this one potentially could be all the way down to deadline day. I've got a sneaky surprise that a sneaky feeling that there might be another surprise on deadline day as well. But that's just my gut feeling.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but you give me the opportunity to tell all of you out there, even when you're watching live or you come on and you watch us later on, that 1 week or this coming Monday, which is deadline day, we are going to be here all day from 3 p.m. To the time that the window closes, which is 11 p.m. UK time. You can look at our mugs again, follow the late transfers with us. And again, as Sam said, I think it's looking more and more like Arsenal will have some late activity, whether it's incoming, outgoing, or both. But Ryan, I want to get back to like the late squad. We were talking. Sam was talking about the inevitability of Partey if Lucas goes. One other thing to consider, is that Mark Rocca, who we've been talking about, we've been tidying him up on this show as a potential replacement for Lucas Toreirra going back to the early spring. It looked for a long time like he was going to be Atletico's fallback for Lucas Toreirra. News comes out today that he has signed with Burnley. So it's almost like Atletico have lost plan B. So if Arsenal have made it known that they will trigger Thomas's clause at some point in some time, maybe that's the spur that got Lucas Toreirra and his agents back in Madrid, is Atletico knowing they've got to cover themselves. They began the season, they won 6-0. Suarez was brilliant. They looked to have some cohesion. They can't take a Thomas Partey caliber player out of their roster, not replace him with somebody of quality, and hope to be successful in La Liga this year.
Yeah, and all the reports suggested that Arsenal weren't going to negotiate on their stance on Toreirra with Atletico Madrid if they didn't negotiate for Thomas Partey. And then suddenly Toreira's agents are in Madrid trying to close a deal, or are going to close a deal. The reports, Fabrizio Romano said, loads of reliable Spanish sources have said he's either Uruguayan sources and whatnot. So this makes me believe that Arsenal may have got what they wanted here, whether it's both on loan with obligations or Toreira's part of a permanent deal for Partey, or we activate Partey's release clause, they sign Toreirra on loan with an obligation. I believe Arsenal have got what they wanted there, because they were, from all intents and purposes, were not going to negotiate with Atletico for Toreirra unless they negotiated with us for Partey. And now Toreirra looks to be signing for Atletico Madrid. So I can only go down that path.
Sam, I'm going to use this opportunity to bring up a point you've been talking about in our group. Is a chance to kind of chat up the poker playing abilities of Edu with respect to Partey, with respect to Aouar. He's going up against, we know Alas is a real hard-nosed negotiator, abrasive, tough to deal with, works through the press. You got to have a thick skin when you're working with Lyon. Also with Atletico, they've got the Spanish press behind them saying they're going to keep him. They want Thomas. They're going to keep him. He's been very patient. He's played the long game. Obviously, when you do that at Arsenal, we saw with Wenger, you take it from your own fan base. You got to have a thick skin. You got to have a heat shield. But playing the long game, and we're still got a week. The price for Aouar kept coming down. It became obvious that Juve was not going to come in, and Man City was not going to come in. Lyon kept pushing that the market was going to be. Edu is, for all the abuse he takes, seems to be playing a pretty shrewd game of poker here.
Yeah, he's played brilliant. Obviously, with Juninho, he's got a ally, so to speak, in terms of loose, because if he's negotiating with Juninho instead of a loose, he can use his friendship and say, "Look, come on, tell me the real story here. What's the market?" And if he's saying, "Well, realistically, you're the only ones coming in that's contacted myself," he's probably sat there and gone, "Okay, cool. Let's wait this out a little bit. We'll offer some valuations that will fall short, and see how Alous panics, because we all know that Lyon are in financial difficulty in regards to missing out on Europe completely. They need to recuperate 100 million euros. So it's a case of, as you say, the price coming down from 60 million euros down to around 40. I think that we will probably say to them, okay, for Aouar, we'll do 45 million euros and then another 5 in add-ons, dependent on certain criteria. So potentially getting back into Champions League, the amount of assists in the season, performance-based payments, but make them a bit more difficult to activate, so to speak. In regards to Thomas Partey, as we've all discussed here in the pods and also in our group chat, is that we know that we hold the cards in this aspect. And as Ryan said, if they wanted our players, then I think that we may have got what we want in adding Toreirra to the deal. But ultimately, we've all said that the deals happen in the last week. Big deals take time. They happen in the last week of the window because clubs start to panic, because they know if they lose somebody, they're going to need to get replacements, because obviously they need to appease their fan base, losing star players. But as I said last week, the abuse that Edu's been getting is quite frankly ridiculous, because we know we've got a squad inherited that was a mess. There was a lot to sort out behind the scenes. His job just isn't defined by transfers as well. It's the first team affairs. He's also has regular meetings with Per to see how the academy's going and the transition across from academy to first team. Obviously, he takes care of the first team affairs alongside Arteta, as well as the change in hierarchy. It's been I wouldn't say unstable. It's been a challenging times in terms of change, but ultimately, we're coming out the back end of this, and when the signings get over the line, I expect to see a lot of apologies from a lot of people, because in my eyes, he's done absolutely brilliant in terms of negotiating prices down and getting players included into deals that were deemed nigh on impossible. So yeah, I think that in terms of Edu, top job so far.
All right, Ryan, I'm going to give you the final word here, and we're going to stick with this topic of money. Last summer, Arsenal left it late, and then they made 2 big deals. They got Nico Pepe, record signing, just about 73 million pounds, and then they got Kieran Tierney, around 25, maybe a little bit more depending on who you talk to, somewhere in the neighborhood. So they spent somewhere around 100 million, 98 million, 100 million, two quality players. I was looking at a Deuce first window. He's getting Gabriel for what looks like a bargain. 27 million now, seeing what City's paid, had to make an impulse buys for center backs, looks like a bargain. He was able to fend off a late charge from United. Okay, quality signing for his back line. And then if you put Willian as a free, if you put these two players, Thomas Partey, and with the price he's negotiating for an Aouar, those two players are around 85 million. So for just slightly more, 10 million more, he's added four players. I mean, I just want to, I mean, if we took Aouar for 45 million, ridiculous. We never would have thought about that 6 months ago, 9 months ago.
No, and that's credit to him, because you think about it, we've added a backup goalkeeper. We don't have the headache of who do you want to play. We know who our number one is now. And now it's up to the new kid to show his worth and fight Leno all the way. We've added a centre-back that looks to be the centre-back we've needed for a good few years. Powerful, strong, athletic, good in the air, good on the floor.
Left-footed.
Left-footed. Add in an athletic midfielder would be the first one since Patrick Vieira that we've gone, this is going to turn our team around. He transforms our midfield. And then you get a generational talent like Aouar, who can change a game with one pass for less than 150 million.
A lot less than 150 million.
Yeah, that cuts our rebuild time down by a good couple of years, easily. We have all said COVID in some way or another is affected badly, but it looks to me, that it's actually helped us, because it's reduced the market back to the prices we originally wanted to pay before the Neymar transfer. Now we're getting players that we want for good quality, top quality players for around 45 million, which is what we paid for Mesut Ozil back in the day. So Edu has done fantastic, continuing to do fantastic. If we get the deals we want over the line, and then maybe have a cheeky striker come through the door on a deadline day, it'd be even better.
We're not going to name him, but tune in on Thursday. Come back on Thursday. We're going to talk about that player. We're going to talk about deadline day. We're going to talk about the show. We got a lot of guests lined up, maybe a couple other surprises in the market and with the show. So again, we want to thank all of you out there in the internet world for joining us. We appreciate your support. We've been growing. We love your feedback. We love your comments in the chat. We love your comments in the comments down below. We love the emails, the questions. Keep them coming. Again, the three of us will be here on Thursday to talk about the next Liverpool match, to talk about any developments that occur in the next 48 hours, and obviously to set up all of the extravaganza that will be Monday, deadline day, here at Say by the Bellerin. So for Sam, for Ryan, for me, Raphael, we want to bid you all good night. Thanks for coming.